Hello, my friend. This is Clyde. Let's meet on the patio. A group of friends met up at the house of one of the brothers from church. His wife and 3 children were out of town for the evening, and he told us earlier that day, come on up to his place for an evening of food and to listen to some music and just chat, as good friends do. Food was ordered from a local restaurant, and it was so good. Baked chicken, broiled steak, baked potatoes, some veggie soup, and a lovely pasta, something I've never had before. The best sweet rolls I've had in ages, and a most delightful vegetable salad. For the healthy ones, of course. Just when we thought we were full, our friend brought out a cart of little bowls loaded with ice cream and stuffed with different pieces of pastry. He apologized for the ordinary meal and promised that when next his wife was home, that they would do a better job of entertaining us. When I tell you, we were full. One guy announced, I can't take a message even if I tried. Then our friend, who just fed us, invited us all onto the patio overlooking the city below. He had already set out the chairs, and he quickly demanded that we all take a seat. There was something in his voice that made me think, this sounds like it's going to be serious. He wasted no time. I want us to talk. There are 7 of us here, and we've been friends for a long time, but tonight I'm asking each of us to pull back the curtains and bare your soul with your brothers. This is not a counseling gig, and this is not a forum that you're going to take anything from here through these doors. Anything that is said here stays here. But I know as guys, we each carry around pain in our hearts and never share it with anyone. Well, tonight, let us break that stupid man thinking and just open up and share with your brothers. Silence. Then one guy said, I'll start. He shared about his miserable marriage. His wife was a professional and she worked long hours, and sometimes she's out of town. They have 2 kids who are away at college, so many nights he's home by himself until his wife comes home dog-tired and can barely hold a brief conversation. Intimacy has long since gone out through the window. He said that he got so lonely that he found himself flirting with an old girlfriend who recently moved back into town. And last week, his wife was away, and he slept over by his girlfriend's house. I don't know why I shared that, but I feel so bad. I know I've broken my vows and I've grieved the Lord, but guys, what do I do now? Silence. Then one other guy started to sob. He could barely talk, but the gist of his situation is that he has been suffering from high-functioning depression for almost 3 years. He said that the weirdest thing is that he is doing well at his job, got a huge promotion recently, and his wife and his kids are happy because he provides for them. Most times they sit at the dining table, he is talkative, and he says that's his excuse to cover up what is going on, because nobody would guess what's going on inside. Recently, he bought a gun. And he hopes that something tonight will stop him from using that gun, because he is so close to taking his life. Oh, did I tell you that he is the head usher at our church? This was shaping up to be a long night among friends. A third guy started to talk about his son, his only son. Brilliant kid who went to a top university and studied finances, graduated with honors, and landed a big position with an international company on the other side of the country. All seemed well with his son as the reports came in week after week. And then his son called home 2 weeks ago to say that, Dad, I did not move across country for the job. I moved so that I could marry my boyfriend from college. That kid introduced them to a beautiful pastor's daughter while he was in college, and everyone was hopeful they would get married. Well, he did, but to a man. His mother has not stopped crying, and as for him, he just can't stop asking, where did I go wrong? My boy was active in church for most of his life. At one point, he wanted to become a youth pastor. Now he's living a gay life and married to another man. His pain was heavy. He just wept uncontrollably. By this time, one guy had slid out of his chair and was sitting on the floor, and another guy was just pacing the floor, shaking. Our host, with a quiver in his voice, asked, "Does anyone else have something to share? You don't have to if you don't want to." One guy spoke about his faith. He says he finds himself not believing this business about God. "I'm scared of the future. I'm scared of dying. What if I am not saved?" He said most days we see him crying at the altar in church. That is because he doubts his salvation and looking for God to assure him that he is saved and going to heaven. But nothing seems to satisfy. One friend got up and just simply started to pray. And before long, all of us men were on the floor, on our faces, on our knees, just weeping and confessing and crying out to God. It was raw, it was huge, but it was powerful. Or what I did not tell you was that one man stood up before we prayed and he read a passage. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Matthew 11:28-30. That was when you heard a relay of sobbing all across that patio. God was speaking to all of us, those who had spoken and those who did not share. In the patio that evening were all Christian men who had been carrying some heavy loads, men who were active in church but secretly struggling with one thing or the other. We all were those men who would offer a smile and give you a Jesus handshake. "God bless you, my brother. God bless you, my sister." And nobody knew what was going on beneath the surface in the life of each of us. Prayer went on for quite some time. As we moved around from friend to friend and prayed for each other and cried with each other. We left there about 2 a.m. the morning, and only because each person spoke about the burden that was lifted. Each brother spoke of the joy that flooded his soul there that night. No one knew what God had in store when our friend's family went out of town. No one imagined that a regular group of guys meeting up for dinner would end up experiencing the greatest healing among friends. No one knew that tonight was going to be the turning point for 7 Christian men who loved the Lord and who had been caught in the crosshairs of the devil, whose sole intention has always been to steal, kill, and destroy. And he almost succeeded, but God stepped in right on time and brought healing to hurting men. This is a parable, but Jesus is real. And right now, you might be one of those guys, or your situation might be different, but you refuse to tell anyone and you are carrying around a burden that is bigger than you. Jesus can heal your wounded heart. He can forgive you of the horrible sin you have committed. He can free you of the bondage Satan has had you wrapped up and tied up in. Jesus can set you free. You don't have to carry the pain any longer, my brother. Peter wrote this in his letter to Christians all over the world. Cast all your anxiety, your cares, your troubles on him, because he, Jesus, cares for you. 1 Peter 5, verse 7.